Titanfall 2 is by far the best first-person shooter I've ever played. Here's why. There are three main reasons why I believe Titanfall 2 to be such a great game: story, gameplay, and visuals. I'm going to talk about these different aspects in this order, with timestamps to each section in the description. First though, I'd like to give a bit of context.
Trust me.
Allow me to start off by saying I really don't care for most first-person shooters. Modern ones, that is. I used to love the first two entries in the Modern Warfare series, even the first two from Black Ops. Outside of Call of Duty, the only shooter games I found much enjoyment in was Dirty Bomb, Borderlands series, and Doom. That's why when the first Titanfall game was released on Xbox, I couldn't have cared less, to be honest. It's just a way for Microsoft to get a new FPS IP onto their console, which I had no interest in anyway. There was no campaign mode in the original Titanfall, which was one of the main complaints voiced by critics about the game. 2 years later, the sequel was released, this time with a campaign mode, but still the game didn't garner much public attention due to the mediocre first game. I, however, became interested in the title after discovering that the story was written by the writer of the first two Modern Warfare titles. I hoped the game would be just as enthralling as those games were, and jumped the gun, deciding to play through the campaign mode of the game. Now you're all caught up, let's get on to the review.
We got a way out of this one, BT?
Calculating.
So the game starts off by throwing you straight into a simulation of an elite class of soldier called a pilot. This acts as a tutorial for the movement system and gunplay of the game. When you've grasped the mechanics, you can continue out of the simulation and into the game. This is when your character gets a bit of a proper introduction as Jack Cooper, a rifleman in training to be a pilot, hence the simulation. A pilot by the name of Lastimosa informs you that we're being attacked and that you must go aid in the fight. There's a short interaction with another pilot by the name of Anderson, who becomes essential to the plot later on. After fighting on the battlefield and reaching the clearing, a large enemy comes onto the field and knocks you to the floor, only to be saved by Lastimosa and his Titan, BT-7274. Some unfortunate events lead Lastimosa to use his last breath to promote you to pilot and give you his Titan. The game then leads through a roughly 5-ish hour campaign, through constantly changing environments on a quest to fulfill Lastimosa's mission objective to rendezvous with Anderson. From there, you end up helping Rifleman, eventually other pilots, in a fight against the Frontier Militia wishing to destroy the planet of Typhon by using alien technology. It sounds pretty generic and standard as far as shooters go, but here's the difference. The characters in this game are really fucking interesting. It's the small interactions with BT, like a little thumbs up here or there, or the wisecracks that the player character makes towards BT. It just makes BT such a lovable character, especially for a robot. BT has some completely unforgettable lines throughout the story that genuinely have me feeling human emotions. Despite BT having a rather monotone voice, Glenn Steinbaum's delivery sometimes has me convinced that this Titan genuinely cares for Cooper. Even after 2 full playthroughs of the game, I still believe BT somehow developed artificial emotions of compassion. While most games feature a stale and uninteresting main protagonist, Titanfall 2 features a very believable one. Not only did I chuckle to myself a few times at the possible responses, but I even worried for my character's own life towards the end of the game, and in one of the final set pieces, on my first playthrough, I felt really immersed and shared Cooper's anger towards the enemy. It's rare I say this about a game like this, but I want to see more of the characters. I want a sequel that follows BT and Cooper's next adventure.
Hello, Jack.
The tutorial for the game literally has you feeling so epic, jumping about, attempting to get the fastest time in a trial. So when you're thrown into the reality of being a rifleman without the amazing bonuses of cool HUD, double jump, wall riding, you just feel useless. When you're then finally promoted to pilot and get these abilities, you end up feeling so thankful. Like the promotion is a promotion, not just to the character, but to you as a player. And that's just talking about the boot on ground gameplay. A large portion of the game is spent inside of the Titan, utilising a set non-customisable loadout that can be changed at any time from a range of different classes. Usually every half an hour or so, a new loadout can be found. These vary from being short distance, burst fire, high damage weapons to long distance, single shot, extremely high damage weapons. Some loadouts' main weapons require moderation with their rate of fire, just to ensure they don't overheat or run out of energy, but most have infinite ammo, meaning you can just go all ham on enemies. By default, each loadout can get a burst in one direction to increase movement speed, as well as being able to sprint and crouch just like Cooper would without a Titan. BT is, however, much beefier than Cooper, so you'll have to be disembarking frequently, having to find alternate routes to the objective, which creates a nice contrast of gameplay. Cooper has access to 3 grenades that can be switched out to explosives, ranging from frags to incendiaries to explosive robotic spider things. Cooper can also temporarily turn invisible to get behind enemies' lines for a sneak attack, though this is something I didn't really utilise to its fullest potential. This ability is actually replaced for a single mission in the game, but I'll get back to that in a moment. BT's loadouts generally have unique shields, unique melee attacks, and a unique area of effect attack, sometimes with an additional single target attack. They are sometimes copied over between different loadouts, however no two loadouts feel the same, each caters to a completely different playstyle. My personal favourite is the final one, Legion, which gives BT a giant limited ammo minigun, a shield that completely covers the front of the Titan, and the ability to switch between a close range or long range explosive power shot. Every loadout also has an ultimate ability that can be activated once its charge is full. These range from being a crazy powerful auto aim ability to raining rockets down on the enemy to this laser beam attack that completely obliterated the enemy boss I was fighting. Right, now I can finally talk about the level I mentioned earlier. If you're going to play the game, I do recommend you skip to the next section of the video now, because I will be spoiling what I believe to be the best part of the game, solely because I want to rave about it, okay? Good. This is a level you've probably heard about, and oh my god, it deserves the praise. This level replaces the standard cloak ability with one that switches the world around Cooper from being a desolate and destroyed facility in the present day with broken machines, wild creatures for enemies, to being the past version of the facility, where the enemies are properly functioning robots and the frontier militia. All it takes to travel through time is to press on one key. Holy shit, it feels so fluid. The level eases you into the mechanic at first, with just walking around a static area with areas only accessible from one specific time period. As you progress further and further, you'll have to learn to switch mid-jump to the past and back to the present, and vice versa. There's even this one part where you're falling through a pipe and you have to switch repeatedly, as certain parts of the pipe are broken in some time periods. Then there's this cool bit where you have to jump down this hole into the fire in the present day, but switch before you die, only for there to be enemies in the past waiting for you. All the while, these enemies are screaming at each other about how you, the intruder, have sporadic movement and how they keep losing you. Then you fight your way back to BT, travel through time, still watch them back, get a cool new loadout, and then BAM! This shit happens. I love this so much. Like, I can't get over how cool this all looks. This genuinely just makes me so glad that developers are pushing what's possible in games. Like, sure, this sort of thing is bound to be in other games, but not as amazingly beautiful as this.
You're really making me work my pay, ain't ya?
This is one area where I believe the game to not necessarily lack, but more like suffer. Apart from a few instances where the game is insanely gorgeous, the game looks very average. I feel like the game could have done with a bit better colour grading, although that might just be me. I do have to credit the people that came up with the overall feel of the world. A lot of aspects are reminiscent to Star Wars to a degree. It feels like the Titan designs come straight from the mind of George Lucas, and even like an AT-AT walker could stroll by any moment to join in some of the large battles. The UI for this game is one thing I absolutely love. I especially like the way it actually reacts similarly to how a heads-up display on an actual helmet would realistically act, with sprinting causing a slight wobble. The UI inside of BT is even rather impressive. It reacts to the environment with mud possibly clogging up only the side views windows, so it impacts actual gameplay as least as possible while still looking fantastic.
Pilot Cooper. A lot of people owe their lives to you. And to BT.
Overall, the game is brilliant. Play it. I've a lot of games to get through, and I have to pick and choose which ones to play due to limited time. but I guarantee that the 5 to 6 hours you'll spend here will be well worth it. I'm new to making videos, so any feedback would be appreciated. Got lots of ideas for future videos and want to talk about what some of my favourite games from different genres are. Not too dissimilar to this video. This has been Torchii. See you later.